This is Lars from SSW TV. I'm here with Julie Lerman at the Pluralsight Authors Summit in Salt Lake City, and this is absolutely phenomenal hotel called Grand America. We are going to speak to Julie about DDD, or domain-driven design. And the reason I want to talk to you about this, Julie, is that I know you're known for Entity Framework, you're known for data, your company's called the Data Farm, and yet you have a DDD course on Pluralsight. So what's the DDD angle? Where's that coming from?
My involvement with domain-driven design is really just representative of my evolution as a programmer. I've always been kind of a data first. This is really going to date me, but at this point, I think everybody knows I've been doing this for a while. But I've done FoxPro development, Access development, and even through the years of VB and .NET. C# and everything. It's always been, see what the client needs, kind of mock up some screens, and then let's go, hit the database and get that structure worked out. Yep. And then from ever on, everything you're doing in your application, you're like worrying about getting the data in and out.
Yeah, oh God, I'm not constricted to.
Yeah, and it was really kind of an evolution for me to getting interested in DDD. Really started with when Entity Framework came out and the alt.NET community was kind of screaming about, you couldn't do any agile practices with it, and you couldn't test, and you couldn't do separation of concerns, and you couldn't do all that stuff. And when I got past, I was able to get past hearing, you're horrible because you use Entity Framework, I was able to go, so what are all these things you're talking about that you're that passionate about that you would be that mean to me? All right, I don't care about the mean part, but what is all this stuff? So and when Entity Framework 4 came out, it enabled this kind of development because these people spent time with the Entity Framework team, and we got code first, and things really changed a lot. So this stuff was possible, but still all those alt.NET people, all those people, I was like, okay, now you can do it. Yeah. And they're like, we still hate Entity Framework. I was like, okay, so show me your stuff. Yeah. Show me this stuff, teach me. Exactly. And so I started doing it. And because of that, got the Agile, and I learned about testing, and then started learning about the idea of testing. Really helped me think about the separation of concerns, right, and code smells and things like that. So it was really interesting because I had been programming for a long time, so it was exciting, to have be thinking differently about how I was coding. Right. And one of the things that had led me to was really starting to think, well, where does this belong? I got to add, this code, where does this belong? Or I've got too much logic going on in this method. I really thought a lot about that. And it's almost embarrassing, but it's not. I mean, it's not. I did not get brought up in this, as I learned programming, we didn't have these ideas, right? So I really embraced it and was really interested in it. And that kind of led me to, on that path towards domain-driven design. And I was at a conference, and Eric Evans was there. And, I started chatting with him. And, so, of course, he's like a poet. He really, a philosopher poet, and my interest just kept getting growing. And then one of the key things, one of the things that had been bubbling up a lot about Entity Framework, and Ward Bell had been writing about this, and a lot of us had been starting to have conversations about these huge models. The models were too big and unmaintainable, and then some DDD people were starting to talk about that too, and so I was suddenly aligned with them. We got to find a way to break these apart in what makes sense. And that kind of led me to learning about bounded context in domain-driven design. And so I just learned kind of a little bit about that, and and then I wasn't doing it quite right, but it was still helping me. Even though I wasn't doing the real bounded context approach, I was using some of those concepts in a way that helped me a lot to solve some of the problems I was having.
Sure.
And then I learned more, and and then it enabled me to understand more concepts about DDD, and then enabled me, Eric.
Did you know it was DDD when you started it? Was that what it was called?
When I was looking at breaking up, I was like, I got to find better ways to break up the models. And I knew about DDD. It had been around for a while, and I knew that those ideas were coming from people who were coming from the perspective of domain-driven design. And they'd been through this with, and a lot of people using Hibernate or using domain-driven design.
So is DDD, as a developer, how do I get into DDD? Because I've used it, we've used it in lots of projects, and it's easy to get wrong. Like, it's easy to understand the concepts, but it's very easy to get wrong.
Well, it depends. Easy to understand the concepts. To an extent.
But I mean, here's a domain, and this is what the business wants, and that sort of overall concept.
Well,
you go, oh, okay,
I'm much bigger than just implementing
absolutely,
code.
but you got to start somewhere.
Right, and so I started in the implementation, and then kind of grew out of that, understanding the bigger concepts. And the interesting thing, so some of these bigger concepts are really about working closely with the domain experts, and I mean the clients, the people who understand the business, the people who are using that software, and not just going, that's okay, I can.
Yeah, just show it to me, I'll figure it out.
Figure it out. And that aligned very much with how I've been working with clients for years. So it was really interesting because in a lot of ways it codified what I already knew instinctively.
Codified? Did you say codified?
Yeah.
As in code? I've never heard that expression.
Not so much as in code, but it gave me a repeatable pattern.
Right.
Like, it kind of not just put it down on paper, but it really gave structure to things that I knew instinctively, and then went beyond. Kind of certainly added to it. But yeah, huge topic, and for me, rather than being overwhelmed by the vastness of what it takes to really be expert in the whole thing from end to end, I'm more the kind of person, like with a bounded context, who are like, all right, there's some fantastic techniques in here, whether they're techniques for helping you interact with your your customer better, or implementation techniques. Like, I can take advantage of these techniques and have great success with them on, regardless of how far in I go with DDD. But on the other hand, I know Eric's talked about, the problem of people reading partway through the book and then stopping.
Well, I read his book, and it was about probably a year and a half ago or something.
And how long did you spend reading it?
Well, we were clever because it's a heavy book. There's a lot of content, and there's a lot of stuff do you go, I kind of know what he means, but do I really understand it? Yeah. And so what we did at where I was working at the time, we had a book club. So the company bought us all the book, and then we spent a lunchtime every week where we discussed it. So we read the chapter up till that, and then we discussed the chapter in that lunchtime break, and that just worked beautifully.
It's also in with what so much of DDD is all about, is what this collaboration, and how by collaborating you come to better understandings of the, in this case, understandings of the concepts, but by collaborating with your domain experts, everybody gets a better understanding of
And there were some things that we certainly didn't agree with. There were some people there that were very experienced in DDD, said, well, that actually doesn't work. It looks good on paper, but we have these experiences. And there were some people that hadn't used it much, so we all sort of pitched in and made
really
our...
is helpful
it
too.
was. We formed our own, I guess, communal opinion on what we should do.
And I am no expert. But what I've been doing is I've been learning and understanding more of it. And again, it's like once I learn some of it, then these other concepts kind of naturally make more sense. And it just, so my understanding is continuously evolving. And one of the very nice things, is Eric and Von Vernon and other people in the big leaders in the DDD community have really been supportive of my efforts, because what I'm doing is I have a different way of presenting ideas, and I'm making. I think I'm not the only one. There are, like, Dino Esposito is doing some brilliant stuff, trying to just get the ideas across, but making it more accessible to people who haven't been able to access it before.
Because that was my question. How do I get started?
Yeah.
Like, do I watch your course? Because I wouldn't say you shouldn't go and read Eric's book as a first step. That's when you know something about it and you can evaluate it. I think I don't know. That's just my personal opinion.
One of the goals Steve and I had with the course that we did, which is domain-driven design fundamentals. We spent a long time, and we collaborated very closely on it. It wasn't like, oh, you do a module and I'll do a module. Yeah. We worked really together all the way through, which, again, collaborative, and it helped us do a much better job. And we learned while we were doing it.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And what I found, so one of our goals was to make it easier for people to go get into Eric's books or get into Vaughn's books, exactly. The more advanced stuff. We've heard some great feedback from people who've even said, I've read some of that stuff, read part of Eric's book, and it was too confusing for me. Eric is, like I said, he's like a philosopher and brilliant, and it's just, but for some people, it's overwhelming.
Absolutely.
All the ideas. And I've had people tell me, having watched your course, it clarified so much, and I'm going, and I started reading the book again, and now I can do this. I can get through it because I've got the hard,
that's fantastic.
Because my perspective is different. I think, but Eric it came more naturally to him, right? So it's like more, and also I'm coming from the perspective. I mean, Eric had also like database everything as he evolved his patterns, because that book came out of years of experience where he said, something's working here, and I want to help other people understand what it is that I'm doing. And he spent a lot of time after that, a couple of years after that, just sitting down and going, trying to really, like, that's codifying it, right? Like, what are the patterns? How can I express them? How can I make some kind of a linear approach to it? So we're just making it easier to jump into that.
So it's a good starting point for someone that may have heard of DDD but don't actually know where to start.
Yeah. And I was saying before, and I distracted myself, I come from this database world, right? So I've made this transition. It's been a really interesting and kind of difficult mind shift, but because I've done that, and I'm not preaching it, it's just really helped me.
I was just saying, it's actually helpful.
It's really helped me so much and changed how I perceive programming. Another really huge thing for me from DDD has given me the ability to recognize where there's code that's giving me a pain, and instead of just keep trying to put more code on it, going, all right, if this code is giving me pain, I have to make it go away and find a different way to do it. And life is getting simpler. And I'm doing that with a lot of clients, like, trying to help them find, the code, the subtitle of that book is, reducing complexity in the heart of software. Yeah. I think I've got that right. And that's what I love helping clients do, is like, they're like, but I've got all this stuff to do. And like, let's break it down into digestible pieces. And where this is hard, like this thing, it's just, well, here's if I'm doing like a code review and we get to something where it's like just spaghetti because they keep trying to fix it and fix it and fix it.
Yeah, and you can go back to your domain and
it's
right, and you can
take it apart and put it into smaller things, and that's where, I am not all about like I have to do TDD, test-driven development, start with the tests all the time, but that building testable code, you don't have to like have 100% test coverage, but sometimes the idea of building testable code helps you figure out how to break things down into smaller bites.
Yeah, separation of concerns, right?
Yeah. So it's just been, I've been programming for over 25 years, and it's really nice to be in a position right now, learning something new, where I am still excited about learning, and it's just like, it's instead of like going, oh, I'm tired of programming.
No, I get excited about new things as well, and you have an opportunity to go, actually, I can improve on something I'm already doing in a huge way, and you go, oh, I got to do that.
You know, the other nice thing is, well, you know, yeah, I have this expertise in entity framework. I have been programming for a long time, and I have a lot to bring to the table, and that domain-driven design and architecture and all of that really lets me take advantage of all those years of experience I have of working with clients and solving problems and understanding how architecture goes together and share it with people instead of having them always come to me and say, oh, can you show us how to write this query?
You can't buy experience.
No.
No, that's fantastic. Thanks for the quite a good insight into what DDD is. So if you don't know what DDD is and you want to learn, Julie's course with Steve Smith is a really good stepping stone. There are lots of books on it, and some of them are heavy because it is a very large topic. They are beautiful. So thank you for your time, Julie. It's been an absolute pleasure, and taking your time out of your busy schedule, because I know we all have lots and lots to do at this summit. And we'll talk to you next time. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
See you next time. Thanks. Bye.
Did you get all that? We'll take the SSW TV quiz and test your knowledge now.